Listera.
And I'm Sonia Metamo,
And
and
we
we
are
are
AfroSistas.
AfroSistas. Our show will elevate Black voices, experiences, and cultures.
Welcome to our podcast, Speak Up with AfroSistas. So today's episode is on checking the box, norms imposed by our society versus reality, and we're specifically talking about education and careers. The reason why we chose this topic is because we felt that everybody deals with education or career at some point in their life, and it's a very important part of everybody's life. And we felt like we wanted to share our experiences, but also want to hear from you guys, from your experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's something that everyone can relate to. The differences might be maybe in certain cultures, in certain countries. There might be more importance at reaching like certain levels of education or in certain career paths, but we can all relate to that.
Yes. So we wanted to start by just talking about norms and kind of what are the norms for specifically education and career. So Sonia, when you hear like norms for education, what pops into your head?
So I'm gonna talk more about African or Cameroonian. It might be a little bit different in some other African countries, but our background, we're from Cameroon. I think for us, norms for education is to reach the highest level possible in education, in degrees. We're big on degrees. You want to be doctor, you want to be lawyer, you want to be engineering, you want to do, like, just make sure you go get those doctorates, PhDs. It has to do, I think, with what our parents know, like kind of like the blueprint to success, the most common blueprint to success. So that's what we're taught learning, you growing up. That's what you're geared towards. Your parents will always encourage you, and because education is very important to us, not only pride, but again, and then not only as a blueprint to success, but I think we are immigrants, so we came here, our parents, first of all, that's giving us more opportunities. So we want to make sure that we take as much advantage of that. Not only go to the highest degree, but you want to go to the best schools. Like everything, You just want to do it to the best. And it goes again the same, I think, for career, where you want to be, progress. So go, up in your title.
Yes.
That's like a question they always ask. So what's your position? How come you're not, director yet? How come you're not manager yet? So they always want to see that growth. They want you to, be, if it's even possible, become CEO, owner, CEO. So, and again, it goes back to because it's a societal norm, because that's what we know, and that is what most people do. How about you?
So education norm, again, similar to you, I think it's kind of like what most people do to achieve success. So it's like everybody wants to go to the Ivy League school or, the prestigious school. And your parents definitely want you to go to, all the way to a doctorate degree. Your parents definitely want to be the first in your class. Don't come with your
B's and
like
C's.
yeah. So I remember when I was in primary school and I would come home with a report card. If I had let's say I had like a 17 on over 20, my mom would be like, why are you getting 17? I know there's somebody in your class that's getting 20. What are you doing with 17? And it would become like this comparison. So I think our parents and their parents definitely wanted them to be successful. So that was the way to be successful. And especially for kind of in Cameroon, there's very limited opportunities. So school is a place that opens a lot of doors for people. Yes. And just in general in life, like if norms say that if you go towards the path of going to school, you should be able to be successful. But one of the things that we want to talk about is that there are different paths to success. And yes, education is important, and has value, but you can do different things in life too. So Sonia, I kind of want to, ask you, what value does education have in your life, and how is that instilled in you?
So education is very valuable to me, and it has been instilled. So it's not just me, my parents, and my family, even friends and people that I surround. Most of us, like growing up, I would say, my parents were not like, okay, you have to become this, you have to become that, you have no option. Either like you're a doctor. For example, my father is a doctor, so he went to medical school and got a public health degree and a business master's as well. But it wasn't like you must do exactly what I did, the path that I chose. You have to become a doctor too. But at the same time too, like, that's also, if that happened, that's what they would want. So they wanted me to follow, again, whatever path I'm choosing, which I kind of chose at a really early age, because again, I was just influenced by what's around me, and also I was influenced by what I like to, and not knowing all the different careers in that field, I was stuck on what I knew, and what I knew was my dad. Like, in science, like I gravitated a lot towards science. I was good in other things too, like math and things like that, but science came really easily to me. So I'm like, okay, like, my dad's like, I would think, okay, the doctor, and there were other doctors as well. Growing up, my dad was kind of one of the first ones, but he had later on his brothers, like other family members, and again, little by little, cousins and things like that, that kind of reached that degree of that level of degree in medicine or science. So it came to, okay, I think that's what I want to do. But also I'm someone who, I love learning. So I actually started school at a 1 year younger than I was supposed to, because I was just so eager to, first of all, I wanted to follow my siblings. I'm like the fourth one. So I was like, my parents were like, might as well just put you in school. Yeah. But I think it wasn't just that, because I was good at school. So I love learning in general. So I think they instilled that desire to always want to do your best. So always do your best, reach, like you said, kind of that higher echelon. Like, why are you, and if you're not, then what are you not doing that you can do? Yeah. So how about you? What do you value? What were some things that were instilled in you in terms of education?
Yeah. So education was definitely a big value in my household, and still is. My mom would always tell us, like, education is your key to freedom. And as a child, I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, wait, what? Like, I don't understand what you mean. But she, my mom got married at a really young age, and I think that especially for in African culture, yes, people do go to school, but I think that especially for women at a certain time of their life and at a certain age, specifically, becomes this pressure of you have to get married. There are other things that are more important than education or you working, especially for a woman. And that, unfortunately, and that is unfortunately even in other culture, it's so much so that they don't even value girls going to school, because they're like, well, 20, you have to go get married, you have to start having your children. What's the point of you going to school? You're not gonna, be able to go to university or even get a real degree with, finish school and get a job. So a lot of countries would hold back their girls from going to school and not let the girls go all the way to the top, because they feel like a woman is made to nurture and not work. And that's not right. So my mom wanted us to be able to go to school and value school. And my mom would always say, getting married, all that should come second. You should be able to feed yourself before meeting somebody and then you building a life together, right? You shouldn't wait for, I think a lot of people, especially in the African community, I'm just going to be frank, a lot of people in the African community, a lot of our young sisters, even older sisters, have fallen into the trap of, I'm waiting for my Prince Charming that is going to come and take care of me. So they're like, yes. So they, they don't kind of put the foot forward to be like, I'm going to work, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to do all that. And I know sometimes for some people is they don't have the opportunity. Sometimes for some people, the parents don't have the money to pay for the school. And I definitely understand that. But I also know that there's this norm in our African community that, no, the man is going to come and take care of me. And I think that that's where my mom was coming from for, education is your freedom. It's like you should do this for yourself. You should don't wait for anybody to save you. Go to school, learn this,
save yourself.
Yeah, save yourself. Save yourself. Go to school, get this knowledge, and be your own woman before you get married and move on and become a union. So I as a child, like I said, I didn't get it, but the more I grew, and now where I'm in my life, I'm like, thank you, Mom.
Yeah, for instilling that.
Yes.
Exactly.
I'm like, thank you, Mom, for instilling that to me, and it's definitely something I am going to pass to my children. Whether it's a boy or a girl, it's like, take care of you. Learn, go to school and get this knowledge for you, not because society tells you, or not because you want to reach the echelon or whatever, but because you generally should know this. We're all, I think we're all on earth to learn, right? And also, especially to our girls, our young sisters, if you're listening or watching, do this for you so that you can take care of yourself and don't have to wait for anybody.
So I really like that, and I just want to actually relate to that. I think that's also a value that it's funny because it's both of us, it's from our mom, but that is a value that my mom instilled in us as well, girl or boy, but more specifically for girls. She always said you have to be independent. And again, like we mentioned at the beginning, what we know, what our parents know, the path is definitely education will open a lot of doors for you. So she instilled that you have to go to school, you have to reach a certain level, you have to work. I think I get, from both of my parents, I get that hustler mindset. You have to make your own. You cannot just expect someone. Great, it's fine if you marry someone who's rich, you get into a family who's rich, that's fine, but don't use that as your plan for your career, as your plan of your financial plan, for your life. So that's something my mom, always, you have, and that's why to me today, coming from that, those values that she instilled in me today, even if I'm the type of person who I cannot see, that's just me, I can't see myself not working, even if my husband is successful, even if I stay at home, I have to have mine. I have to make my own money. I just have to. That's what I was taught. That's what I value. I think it's very important. It doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with your husband giving you money. Great, that's a plus. But imagine what more you can do when you're able to say, okay, I bring this to the table. So I really think it's really important, especially when you have the opportunities. Like Stella said, when you have the ability, and you do, you have the ability. I understand in some different countries and things like that, different cultures, it might be harder, from, I would say, maybe someone who is in Cameroon and maybe in the village, you have limited resources. It might be harder to think about what can I do, but no matter where you are, you don't have to be rich. I feel like you can find something that you can do that brings something to the table and that makes you independent. That makes you don't have to always be, I don't know, I have a hard time asking for money. So even my husband, every time having to ask him for money, that my pride is just, I can't do that all the time. It's gonna make it very hard. So I want to have some control in, the independence, me making the money come in, and also have the ability to decide, I want to work on this, and even stuff I want to buy this, I want to buy that. like if I'm able to bring in the money, like there are certain things that I want to be able to do.
Yes.
So I think that's very important. Girls, get your own.
Yes. So going, back to education and it bringing us freedom. I wanted to, get to know a little bit about your education, kind of like your route, like how you, I know you said you were interested in science.
Yeah.
Like what was your, like I said, your route, your path,
exactly.
And was it,
what
was it
thought?
what you thought?
What my parents thought?
Yeah, was it what you thought? Was it what your parents thought? And like now, are you done too? Are you done with your path, or are you still on a learning curve?
Okay. So again, like I said before, I'm someone, I love learning. So I always originally, I found interest in science. My idea growing up of what I wanted to become, my career path was to become a medical doctor. Because that's what I saw, my dad do, and some of my sisters also growing up, they wanted to do that, my older sisters. So I was like, I love science, I'm good at biology, so let me do that. So little by little, I would always make sure, because I love learning. I was always really good at school. It doesn't mean it did, and I hate it when they say that, but it doesn't mean that I'm the smartest. But I was definitely I'm someone who is competitive. Not only do I love learning, I am competitive, and competitive, it doesn't just mean with other people. Even I'm hard on myself. I compete to try to do better for myself. So I was a very, like, not straight A all the way, but A's were my goal in my classes. I wanted to get A's. I wanted to do AP. I wanted to do honors. I always tried to push the bar. So, I finished high school. I was, like kind of at the top of my class. Not number one, but I was at the top of my class. And it rolled into college where I was doing pre-med. I was in a program where my focus was to become a medical doctor and also do a PhD. So I was like, let me just do everything, all these degrees. I'm going to just, and that, it did not, like I said, it didn't come, my parents did not say, you must do this. That's what I said myself. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a medical doctor. And now going into college, I'm going to do PhD as well. So the funny thing though is when I was younger though, there's something else that piqued my interest, but I was still like, I'm going to become a medical doctor. I remember, I think it was before high school, middle school, I actually also wanted to become a singer. I love singing. So here I was like, maybe I can do that too. But that quickly, that quickly kind of went away because I think I like confident in myself. Like I thought I had a pretty voice. I like singing, but I like confidence in myself. So I was like, let me just do what I know. It's proven. I'm good at school. I know I can become a medical doctor. I just focus, make sure I get good grades, and I'm good. And I did. I was, even college, I did okay. Like I think I did well in college. I followed the path that I needed. But little by little, I started questioning, do I really want to do a PhD? Do I even want to be a medical doctor? So I was like, okay, am I going to spend 8 years doing all this and then not practice in those careers that I was thinking? So like I said, medical doctor. So I did a post-bac and I did research. I realized for 2 years, I do not want to do research. So after that, I was like, let me focus and do the medical school, go to medical school. So here I am. I definitely know that I took the MCAT like 3 times, but the way I study, like I know myself. I know when I give something my all and when I don't. And I know I was not giving it my all. It was more like, let me just get this done and get some score that can get me in a school. So that's what happened. I took it a few times. I studied a lot, like, but deep down inside of me, there was that question, like, do I really want to do this? And I think it kind of showed in my efforts. It showed in my test. I got to a point the 3rd time where my score was okay. So that was the deciding moment. I needed to decide, am I going to apply? Like, girl, this is the time if you want to say no. I should have said no a long time ago. But anyways, I spent the money, I invested the time, but I ended up not applying for medical school. And another interest that I had, which, you know, it's kind of related to science, but it kind of hits other fields too. I was interested, I almost minored in psychology. So I was interested in, you know, psychology. I also was interested in public health. Again, that also comes from, you know, what I saw my dad do in our village, growing up, the development, the projects that he's done. And I've always wanted to contribute to that. So I was like, let me go get a public health degree, an MPH. And that's what I did. So I took some time off. The route was definitely not what I intended and what my parents thought I was going to do. So it kind of shook them, and they were afraid. They were like, you know, is this child ever going to be successful? Like, what's going on? How can you deviate from, you want to be a PhD medical doctor, and now you're telling me you just want to do a master's in public health? Come on, Sonia. And even my siblings, they were like, yo, we thought you were going to be our doctor. Like, you're so smart. You're so, like, you're capable of this. And I know I'm capable of going to medical school and becoming a doctor. But sometimes in life, what you're capable of doing is not necessarily what you're meant to be doing. So that's something I realized, and I made peace with that. And they eventually made peace with that. You know, I did my MPH. I'm where I'm at right now. I worked while I did my master's full time. So I was working, I went from basic research to clinical research. I was doing a lot of my job was clinical research. But I slowly transitioned and did a lot of business too. If you follow me or you know me, I started getting an interest in business. And I almost did an MBA. But I don't think I'm going to go back that route. I think I'm just going to focus on, you know, kind of the entrepreneur route and creating my own businesses and kind of learning those things on the field. But like I told you, I love learning. I'm always learning. Like if I'm somewhere where I'm not learning, I feel like I'm dying. I'm not growing. I need to grow and always feed my knowledge. I'm very curious. So, I'm not done. That's what to answer your question, I'm not done. My MPH, I did it. I'm going to admit something. I don't think I ever told anyone this, but one of the reasons I also decided, because my MPH, I did it in like 3 years. I took a break while I was doing that too. At some point, I almost said, no, I want to start my business. Like, no, I'm done with this. I don't have to have a degree. But I think I was influenced by what people, not just people, family members, not direct family members, were saying about me. And I hate, it was kind of like a challenge for me. For me, my success is my revenge. So when you do and say certain things about whether it's me, my family, people that are close to me, that show me that, you know, it's demeaning my potential. It bothers me a lot. So I was like, I'm interested in this. I'm just going to finish. I started something. I'm going to finish it. And now I don't have to do it in your time. I will not do it in your time. My story, my experience is unique. But I will accomplish everything that I have set in my mind. So one of the things that I want to do, I do want to continue my education when I am not sure. In what field? Because I don't think it will be like a PhD in public health. I have other interests in certain fields that I want to explore. But I know that I do want to continue. And it's not that, again, it's not necessarily, because I have, now it did challenge me and push me when, you know, those you know, circumstances happen. But I always make sure that I have a why that's bigger than that. I'm not running my life because people said, oh, you know, spread some nasty rumors and said certain things about you or, you know, whatever your abilities. No, it has to also be because it's something that I want. And like I said, if I'm interested, I have personal goals I want to reach and personal incentives that I want to reach for me to go back to school and get that doctorate or the next degree.
Yeah. And like your experience is so relatable. I think there are a lot of people just like you that kind of, you know, want to do some things, but because family or people are saying certain things, they either change their mind or force themselves to finish even something that they don't really want to finish. So, because somebody said, oh, she's never going to do it. And maybe they're doubting themselves because, like you said, like they have different interests.
Yes.
They have different things that they want to explore, but because society is like, well, she started, she didn't finish that, or this and that, they force themselves to finish, and then at the end they hate it. They hate it. I'm a master in social work, and I know in my social work program I had people that were like 50s, 60s that were I had somebody that was like a CEO or like a high financial advisor for like Comedy Central who wanted to be a social worker, and I was like, how did you go from that to not wanting to be a social worker? But it was a similar story. Like she was like, I was in a field that I hated. I got into it because of the money at first, but over time she hated getting up to go to her job. She ended up being highly depressed for a long time, and met a social worker that really helped her through her depression. And then at the end, she decided like, this is what I want to do. Like I want to be a social worker, and quit her job. A lot of people again were like, what? Like, you're gonna quit this job, like this secure job, and when you're making that much to go do what? And people don't understand, like, we're not all in it for the money. We're not all in it for the prestige or because, that's what society tells us to be. Some people do what they love. They go with their passion. They go with their calling. And it is a thing. Like, I hate when people are like, what do you mean you're doing it for your passion? Like, I'm doing it for my passion. I don't know what to tell you. I'm doing it for my passion because every day when I wake up in the morning, I have this joy, even though if it's a 9 to 5 or whatever, but I literally have this joy that I am going to make a difference. This is what I like to do every day. So for me, I, moved here with my parents at as a teen, and my parents definitely, my dad definitely wanted me to be a doctor. I mean, he had it in writing. He was like, you're going to be, so I am named after one of my dad's really good friend. Her name is Stella, and she is a dentist. So like, since I was young, my dad was always like, you're going to be like the Testela, who's the dentist, so like, forever I was hearing that, and I was definitely interested in medical school. I was interested in science. But I was like, I don't think I'm going to be a dentist. I definitely was not interested in dental school. But I didn't tell my dad that. I was just like, well, I'm interested in medical school. We'll see. I for sure thought I was going to be a pediatrician for a long time. I love working with kids. I love working with kids. So I was like, okay, well, if my parents, really want me to go to medical school, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to be a pediatrician. But when I got here and I went to high school here, I was like, I love with psychology, and definitely was here. I was like, ooh, this is really what I want to do. There's just this kind of calling that I had for it. It was like, it was just something that I couldn't explain, but I was like, this is what I want to do. So for my bachelor, I decided to do a bachelor in psychology. So for psychology, when you do a bachelor in psychology, it's very basic. You kind of learn the overall field of psychology, but you do a lot of research. And then most people will either do either a master in psychology to become a counselor, or they would do a PhD program to become a doctor in psychology. But PhD programs are very influenced in like research, and I definitely knew I didn't want to do that. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the master route. And then within that, I had met a social worker, and I actually interned at the nonprofit organization where she was working. And I fell in love with social work because it's very diverse, and you still get that mental health field that you get in psychology. So I was definitely like, oh, okay, like I want to try this. I want to, let me try this. So my master, I applied into a master social work program, clinically influenced, because I definitely knew that I wanted to work with patients. I definitely wanted to be a therapist. So that's what I decided to do. And I remember when I finished my bachelor in psychology, my dad was like, oh, like after this, are you gonna do medical school? And I was like, no. And then I was like, what? Like, what are you gonna do with psychology? Are you done? You know, you can't get any money out of it. And it's true that with a bachelor in psychology, there's not much you can do. Yeah. You can work for like some research firms and things like that, but you can't really get a lot of opportunities. That was true. So I was like, no, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to continue because I knew I wanted to be a therapist. I was like, I'm going to go to social work. Oh my goodness. My dad was like, what?
Yeah.
My dad was like, what are you going to do with that? And people have this very negative idea of social workers, you know, taking children away, working with the police, or working for foster homes and things like that. But that's not all that social work do. Again, like depends on your focus. My focus was I wanted to be a therapist and work and help people with mental health issues. So I kind of explained that to my dad, but again, from my last video, you can learn how mental health is taken in the African community. It was not taken very well because my dad was like, what are you going to do with that? Like, if you go back to Cameroon, you're never going to find a job in that. It was definitely a roller coaster, and it still is a roller coaster. I think when I talk to my parents, my mom always encourages me, like, I know that, this is what you want, but you should think of going back to school. And the one thing I tell my mom is that as being a therapist, you never stop learning, because there's always new modalities that are coming. There's always new treatment that are coming. So we're always you're always learning. And I definitely want to continue my education. I'm at a point where I haven't decided what that is yet. But I know that, again, I'm a little bit like you, Sonia. I love learning. And I know I'm not done. I don't know what is the next chapter looks like for me. I don't know if it's going back to school, or if it's just even kind of me venturing into opening my own thing and learning about that. So so for me, education plays a real important part in my life, and I think it should in everybody. But one thing I wanted to talk to you, Sonia, to kind of end this segment of education is, do you think that you talked about being a singer and wanting to be a singer when you were younger?
Exactly.
Do you think that that part of education, so the arts fields, are really emphasized in the African community, or even in general, as being an education, or is it more of something that you do on the side, more of a hobby?
Yes. I don't think it is. I don't think it's emphasized as or seen as a career, but I think it should be. I consider it a career. It's a lot of learning. Like, even what we're doing here, like, this is a lot of learning. I feel like I'm in school. Like, we're podcasting, YouTube. Like, I'm impressed when I see, because I see now, I don't think it's harder for our parents to see the value in that, but I think at least our generation is. We're starting to kind of break the norms, doing different things. And I even see, I have a lot of, past classmates who did they did follow that path. We were in the same program. They followed, they are MD PhDs, but they start doing other things too, or they were doing other things too. Like, they're creating businesses, they're doing, arts, they're doing, like, even my brother, like, my younger brother, he's in school. My sisters, like, they've done, like, I have a sister who sings, who, she's not doing it so much now, but she's done it. And my brother, he sings right now, but he's in school too, and I'm sure he's going to continue. So, I think it is a career path. If that's something that you really hold near and dear to your heart, and it's your passion, and you're good at it too, because we have to be real. Like I can't be over here, misleading you and thinking, yeah, like everyone. No, not those are fields where you need to have the talent. Now I can learn to become a doctor if I'm a good, like I said, I work, I'm a good student, I'm a good learner, I like it, I'm good naturally at science. Not only that, but I can learn the skills and I can, memorize, practice, do everything that is, set. There's a set path. But for something like in the arts, I actually think it's harder to make it, to become successful. Definitely. And make a successful career out of that. Yeah. Because you really have to have the talent. It's either you have to have the talent or you're lucky, or a combination of both. Because there are some people who, who are popular and are famous, but you're not necessarily the best singer. So there needs to be something that either that star quality, or you're really good, like you're one of the best, at this. You can be counted. So it has to be something. Yeah. But I do we need to start encouraging that, because we do have talents. And you also need to, one thing that I would encourage is that you don't have to have just one career path. Your hobby can become your career. It doesn't always have to be, the path. Like it could be the path, like I said, where you finish your school and then you go into focusing on your hobbies. Or you can decide to go focus on your hobby, make that into a career, and go back to school. School is always going to be there. Yes. So whatever your priority is, as you become an adult, you'll know. So do you need a job? Do you need to do that education first so you have a stability? And then, because that's one thing that I strongly recommend. Like for me, for example, I'm not just going to quit my job right now. I know I have a tendency, I'm very spontaneous. I have a tendency to just be like, no, I want to stop this and just focus on this. But I would encourage not to do, your career or your job. Sometimes your job or your career, it could be a few years, but it could be just a path to get you to where you need to be to go and work on your passion. Mm-hmm. So as you're doing that, yes, still work on your business, still work on your passion, still draw, still explore that side of you, because that could really become what is your career later on. And then it just goes on. Once it booms, like that's your focus, and you're lucky enough to just do that and love it and stick to that. Yeah. How about you? Mm-hmm.
I kind of disagree with some stuff that you said. I think that especially in our African community, we don't value arts and kind of things that are outside the norm of regular education a lot. Like we don't value, I think now people are starting to value entrepreneurial type of jobs or type of careers more. But I know for example, arts or even sports are not valued. Again, I think specifically in our communities, because a lot of people don't make it in that field. But I think if it was something that was developed from a young age, that more people would make it in that field. I think, I remember going to primary school in Cameroon, and I don't think I was in a choir. I don't even know if our school had a choir, just to be honest. I don't remember that. But I remember, when I came here to, the United States, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in Cameroon, right? But I'm just speaking of my experience. It was, you could do extracurricular activity, and, arts, whether it's drawing or singing was definitely kind of pushed. And I know some students that even after that, they were like, this is what I want to focus on. So even in high school, they took a lot of drawing classes. Yes, you have to take your, core classes, math, English, but then for the rest of the curriculum, they focus on really what they wanted to learn. Yeah. And I think it should be like that everywhere, focusing on kind of your interest and what you want to learn, because I think that your talents, because I think that you can nurture that to really become something powerful, and I think we don't nurture it enough.
Yeah, we don't. I agree with that.
In our African community, it's kind of like our parents, again, it comes with their experience. So they're we didn't, a lot of people want to be singers, but you don't, easily become famous, or you don't easily make it. And oftentimes deter their children from doing
even
it
trying. Exactly.
when maybe the children could have made it.
Yeah,
Could have
you
been
never
the
know.
next,
Exactly.
Mozart or whatever, you know. So I definitely think that we have to emphasize arts and sports and things like that in our education, and even for careers for our younger ones, and just let them explore. Again, I I agree with you that you can do different things. You don't have to be just like, I'm gonna be a doctor and that's it.
That's all.
No,
you're calling
I would say explore. Try to do different things. Try to see if you have maybe the tact for being an entrepreneur. Try to see if you have the musical or artistic or whatever skills. And that is definitely something that I think that I didn't really do. I think when I find psychology, I was like, this is mine and I'm gonna do this. But as I was in university, I was like, I started to explore more, and even now in my career, that's why I said I'm definitely not done, because now I'm like opening my eyes and I want to continue. I want this to really help me kind of move forward in my life, and I definitely think that you can achieve anything at any age.
I agree. I challenge you guys actually to break social norms, because I'm sure whatever you're thinking of, I'm sure you can find one person on this earth who, whether you think you're too old to even become we were talking about singer, who knows? I could come out with an album and I'm 35 in the next 5 years and, explore that career path. There are examples of people who have done it. So, that's definitely something. And I do agree with you that, if we did nurture those things from a young age, more people would be successful at it in our community. I think that's something we should really start doing in this generation. But then again, like you said, it's never too late. I really challenge you, especially in the times we're in, with the access that we have with the internet, with YouTube, all these social media. You can decide that either you want to go back to a dream or a goal that you had when you were younger, or you can discover new things. You can discover something that you're passionate about, and because you had never tried it, you didn't know. And that's beautiful.
Yes. So that would be the end for our episode today, but we encourage you to please share with us on our social media platform what your path is, either for your education or career, and definitely come and follow us on our Instagram page or on our YouTube page. We definitely want to learn more from you guys.
Yes, and we will see. Thank you so much. Like you said, follow us everywhere, and we will see you on our next episode of Speak Up with AfroSistas. Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell, and also comment and share.
Yeah, yeah.